4. Greensboro 4.
Now, let's get to know the Greensboro 4. At North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, another historically black university also known as North Carolina A&T, students started organizing to integrate lunch counters in the South. These sit-ins were an outgrowth of earlier nonviolent integration efforts in Chicago by an organization called the Fellowship of Reconciliation in 1942. James Farmer, who would eventually be the leader of the Congress of Racial Equality, also known as CORE, was at the forefront of those sit-ins. On February 1st, 1960, Ezell Blair Jr., David Richmond, Franklin McCain, and Joseph McNeil, who would become known collectively as the Greensboro 4, started off these protests by asking for service at an all-white lunch counter in the Woolworth store of Greensboro, North Carolina. And after they asked, they were denied. But they persisted each day after that, and more HBCU students would join them. By February 5th, about 300 students sat at the counter and protested at Woolworths. They took up so much space that they kept the lunch counter and other local businesses from even running. This led to heavy television coverage of these sit-ins, and as a result, an entire sit-in movement erupted across the United States. By the end of March, 55 cities and 13 states had experienced sit-ins, not just in the South, but in the North as well. They were spat on, had condiments poured on their heads, and had cigarette butts pushed into their skin. But by the end of July, the Woolworth lunch counter had been integrated.
You really trying to get me to cuss, aren't you? That's the goal of these things. Just get Tracy to cuss.
I told you. The things that we had to go through just for the most simplest
of lunch counter. And you notice that first picture, they had a black person working behind the counter.
Oh, there was plenty of times where we had black people.
So he couldn't be served if he sat, like if he just wanted lunch, he couldn't sit at the counter and eat.
Tracy, it was so bad during them days that if you worked there, you still had to come through the back door. Like you couldn't walk through the front door and get ready for work like today. No, you had to go through the back door. And you worked there. And yes, you're saying it exactly right. You could work at a place that you would not be served at. Now, we're talking about the lunch counter. Let's talk about restaurants. Let's talk about movie theaters.
Movie theaters.
Let's talk about amusement parks.
Music
theaters, museums,
houses of worship.
I mean, these are places that, yeah, you can work here. You just can't be here. And the only reason that you are here is because you work here. But as soon as you
we're
stop
doing
working,
you a favor.
Yeah. So, to move on, because I got a little extra surprise at the end of all this, just to bring everybody back up to a joyful beginning.
They get their comeuppance.
This is history.